During the pandemic, the QAnon movement appears to be gaining a lot of followers. Can you talk about what you think about that and what you have to say to people who are following this movement right now?
Well, I don't know much about the movement other than I understand they like me very much, which I appreciate. We have Antifa, we have anarchists, we have terrorists.
Antifa, I think at this point we're pursuing the domestic terrorism angle. The president said, I will call Antifa a domestic terrorist group.
There's a lot of people that have been charged with crimes related to the protests that devolved into riots and looting. To my knowledge, none of the criminal complaints have mentioned Antifa.
Yep, well, I'm recording now, so... And, all this little babble right here, we're just going to leave that in there because the first law of audio is you can't edit anything afterwards. It's just physically not possible, Mike.
We're professionals. We don't need editing. What are you talking about?
No. So, little quick updates. We were going to do Trump. And we're still doing Trump. But you see, my problem that I have run into is that the man doesn't shut up. So I'm having a hard time digging through all the things he says because he doesn't stop saying things. There's less contradictions in the Bible than in 3 hours of his speech. And the dude just talks every day, all day. There's just content nonstop. The dude gets like the world's best content provider. In fact, 1,000 years in the future, they will think that we worship this piece of shit more than the people who literally do. But they'll think we worship this piece of shit because it's all we talked about for fucking 10 years.
Well, I mean, when you feed the troll.
Yeah, he just keeps getting bigger. Somebody fed this little mogwai after midnight. But so today we're doing kind of a lead-in, if you will, to the world that came out of Trump in some ways. He's not responsible directly for either of these factions, but so he definitely played a part in their existence. And kind of like the sun doesn't plan on giving energy to the plants on Earth, it just happens, right? I'll give Trump that much, But yeah, we're going to still do Trump. But today we're going to talk about.
Are you saying that he's so powerful that his mere existence can create things?
Well, Mike, only in the sense of like the things he creating being shit, right? He hasn't created any good things. I mean, just go ask all the coal jobs he was going to save. No, he's not so powerful that he creates things, but
he creates great avenues for money to flow.
That is true. That is true. Never to him, though.
You have to bring direction into this. It's semantics.
I know, right? Just straw manning your argument.
Yeah, that's the problem with Trump. The man, the myth, the legend. He's just too fucking big to even think about studying in a month's time.
Yeah, sometimes I watch more cheerful things, like the fucking, I'm going to say 15,000 dead in Gaza at this point. That's more cheerful than watching fucking years of Trump. I mean, years of Trump.
I'll tell you, man, by the time we're done with Trump, I'm probably going to want to read about another shooting.
Oh, God, thank God. Something light and joyful, right?
As long as it's not in a fracking school.
Right. Stop making it. Why is it always schools? Oh, so what are we talking about today, Mike?
Well, one of the daggone things that just happened to come out of that man's mythology, supposedly, is this one little particular group that depends on how you look at them. They're either what is it? A ragtag group of nothing to worry about, or they're the newest, wildest, biggest, baddest terrorist organization to hit American shores. And I don't know which one you want to call it. We got to differentiate it, big A or little A there. But
Oh, you're talking about. So you're going to start with Antifa, huh? What is this? What is this big A Antifa? Let's go ahead and air this out before we even get down to it. What is this big A Antifa you believe exists?
it ain't a belief in existence. No. It's a way that some folks have decided to separate the movement from the groups.
Okay, you're going to have to clarify on that. I'm now more confused than, the first week of Israel research.
Yeah, Antifa the movement is versus Antifa the groups. The black bloc basically is what everybody that hasn't looked into it, like me, would have classified most of Antifa as, is just that one little tiny sect of it. And to differentiate something like that from the actual idea of Antifa as the movement of just general anti-fascism.
Well, Mike, I got some. I can definitely give you some info on that. I have been a member of the online anarchist community since middle school, and just previous to Trump, I started following threads of the Antifa and the Antifa thing, mostly because of my interest in the stated goal. At the time, I'm an anarchist at heart. I'm an anarcho-communist and anarcho-primitivist, really. And so, yeah, my ideologies and whatnot kind of went along with them. Their tactics I agreed with. They were, at the time, what they were doing was they were just trying to find just anybody that they could link with, like, evidence of their, like, Facebook posts or pictures of them with certain people or whatnot. Any evidence they could find of people that were white supremacists or neo-fascists, or like, people involved in that kind of shit, and they basically dox them. It was just kind of a thing of resistance against the kind of status quo of shit. And after George Floyd, it changed. So, like, I wouldn't say I'm a Antifa like member, but I've been Antifa adjacent, and really the only reason I didn't during the protests in Raleigh, the only reason I didn't go was because Aaron talked me out of it. But yeah, it's a revolutionary movement in a time when revolutionary movements are basically just called terrorists. Far as there being like the difference between the political movement, which we'll go into describing and talking about, as far as the difference between the movement and like the individual groups, well, that's kind of what anarchy is. You're going to have some groups that go more heavy on certain things, more violent resistance and whatnot. You're going to have some groups that just focus on like finding them and fucking doxing them and making life difficult. You're going to have some groups who focus more on like law enforcement, stuff like that. That was one group I followed with. Like watching law enforcement and watching their tactics. And yeah, so they actually went to war with them in a couple of places. And I would say for a good period of time, they won for a little while in Portland. They definitely besieged for a little while in Portland all manner of law enforcement and federal government. But yeah, there is no like there's no like general, you know what I'm saying? There's no that defeats the purpose of an anarchist movement. So everything's done in small groups, you know. Hell, I was watching. I think you were the one that sent me the link. Maybe it wasn't here. What is that video? But there was a video I was watching last night where apparently here in Durham there's a big Antifa fucking like group. So, you know, right on. But yeah, so there is no like, you know, like pulling the strings thing of Antifa. It's just basically a bunch of people that have the same like an identity. Yeah, it's well, I guess I should explain more about what Antifa is, right? In general, and this is according to CBS News. In general, people who identify as Antifa are known not for what they support, but what they oppose. Fascism, nationalism, far-right ideologies, white supremacy, authoritarianism, racism, homophobia, and xenophobia. Some Antifa activists also denounce capitalism and the government overall. So yeah, it's not so much a thing of things they support. You know, it's not so much of this is what we stand for. It's a matter of this is what we stand against. You follow?
Right. Yes, exactly. And in those lights, hell, I am Antifa. And I don't like fascism. I don't like homophobes. Xenophobia, I don't really care about.
Well, it depends on what you're doing with that. Like, as biological humans, I think we all have a little bit of xenophobia, right? But it's when you're making an apartheid state. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I've got issues with the actions, not with the xenophobia. I mean, it's the actions that you take. Yeah. It's not who you are at that point.
Primates are naturally fearful of different groups.
Right. It's how you react to that. Are you cautiously approaching and being, withheld, or are you destroying it because it's different? Big differences there.
Yeah.
Just because I don't like it doesn't mean I got to go run up across the street and punch it in the face.
Well, that brings up another thing, the Nazi punching. All right, so in the 70s and 80s, the punk rock scene started to get kind of infiltrated with skinheads. I'm sure you're aware of this, Mike. Right?
Yeah.
So it became a popular thing to do at these like punk rock venues and whatnot to oust and like ridicule and beat up on Nazis who were trying to take away the whole anarchist point of punk rock. Kind of it was anti, you know what I mean? And well, fascists stand for things. So it was about not giving their space to these fucking Nazis, to fucking skinheads. You know, it's about making it to where it's undesirable for skinheads to go to these punk rock shows. And what actually ended up happening was skinheads just started their own punk rock venues. So, that works out. They can live in their own echo chamber, for better or worse. And I guess you could say the same about the other side, but the difference between a Nazi or a fascist echo chamber and any other echo chamber is that if fascists have a platform, and then they have a podium, and then they have a crowd, pretty soon nobody but the fascists will have that platform. You know what I'm saying? So it isn't a matter of live and let live.
About that, one of these topics that we need to bring up here eventually and discuss are these logical fallacies, right?
Okay.
You just went right down on one called the slippery slope. Just because A does not mean B, C, and D will follow. If you can stop at any point, it is a logical fallacy.
You can stop at any point, and that's what Antifa's about. Stopping it before it gets to that point, because it isn't like we've only seen fascism once. It always does these things.
They're assuming that if they don't act on A, then D will result. when everybody would be fine stopping at C.
Well, what if the people that are doing this thing at A, by the time they get to B, are already stating that their intention is to go to D? Do you not want to stop them from getting to D?
We have to discuss that problem. That's the putting an apple in the orange cart. That you have to stop that problem at that time.
Right. So most of these white supremacists, these fucking neo-fascists, their purposes are clearly stated. They don't even bother anymore. They say the quiet parts out loud these days. You know, Christian nationalism and white Christian nationalism, and we want to build a European ethno-state. These are fringe ideas, but these aren't fringe people that are saying them anymore. These are Congress people, senators, fucking judges, you know? So
I ain't saying extremism is going off the rails on both damn ends, man, and it has been, but until here recently, I would have to say, and I'd have to look at the numbers again just to find out if it's just a popularity thing or if numbers are actually going up. But until recently, numbers of like white supremacists and shit like that have been going down drastically over the last 50 years. Where the hell has this come from?
Until 2015. 2015. That's when you really started to see it come back. It was more in response to the God, what was his fucking name? I was not the bullet. I was not the gun. I was not the jury, so don't blame me, son. God, you know what I'm talking? Trayvon Martin. It was kind of like a backlash to the whole Trayvon Martin protests and whatnot and the shit that went on during that little time. It was like a white supremacy backlash that people got all hot under the collar again and started marching. And then at the same time, you also had people like Alex Jones and shit pushing this anti-Semitic bullshit. So that's when you get like, and I think by 2016, you get the Unite the Right rally, which was a like straight up anti-Semite white supremacist rally, you know, and the people at Antifa, the collective of anarchists and anti-fascists have been watching this thinking, this looks a little familiar. And so you can't meet extremism with moderation. Right? It'll just run. The extremism has trample. It'll just run right over you. You know. So you have to meet it on that. You have to meet it on that level. And honestly, I mean, as much as it sucks to say it, you look at the civil rights movement. Martin Luther King's speeches reached a lot of ears, but except for the ears that mattered. Laws started changing when Panthers started carrying guns. You know, when bodies started getting dragged through the streets, the laws started changing. And it's unfortunate when you're dealing with like an authoritarian government, you know, that's what you're dealing with. And we live in a military occupation. You know, everywhere you go in a city, you see a cop car and you see the cops standing around in their Kevlar bodysuits and shit. And we live under military occupation, from a hostile authoritarian government.
We also live under the delusion that things can be changed in a minute.
The only time I've ever seen evidence of things being changed in a minute was Hiroshima. Beyond that, nothing really seems to ever truly change. I mean, even
which was an example of somebody following the slippery slope logic all the way to its conclusion.
What do you mean?
We didn't have to drop the bombs. You know, that wasn't the only option, and
I agree.
It was decided because, if we don't do this, then that will happen. You know, that's false logic. We don't know that will happen. We don't know that the following steps will change. They could stop at any point. We don't know. We just jumped to the conclusion that they wouldn't and bombed them.
when Hitler was rising to power in Germany, it would before he was even rising to power, during the first putsch and whatnot, during his early beer hall days. What if somebody had just beat the holy shit out of him every time he started spouting this stupid shit? What if it had become so unpopular to say, and so, like, you take risk of being assaulted for expressing this stupid shit. If somebody had just, if they had just done that then, do you think we would have had the same World War II? Or would maybe we have, we've done some violence, we've punched some Nazis, but hey, we got 6 million more Jews around.
So you're saying bullying?
How else do you respond to a bully, Mike? Like, what did you tell your kid about dealing with the bully in school?
You're talking about just because he had a stupid, not after he was doing this stuff, but when he was coming up with the ideas and starting to say it. He wasn't a bully then. He just had an idea of it.
No, but he was stoppable then.
Because somebody that just didn't like his idea goes over there and punches him in the face.
Well, these ideas are we didn't know then. You know what I mean? Well, there were actually some people. We got
hindsight. Yes, we know the outcome of this particular story. Exactly.
So knowing the outcome, can we not change the outcome for the next Hitler?
You don't know the outcome of the next Hitler.
No, and that's the good thing about the whole, meeting them on their level and stopping them before they get out of the goddamn mud. You never have to know.
These guys aren't doing that. At no point has the violent side of Antifa shown its teeth in any kind of proportion to what they say they oppose. I'm not calling into question what they oppose. I'm just saying that what they say they oppose, they meet with overwhelming violence at every step. Now, it's effective. I'm not questioning that. So is bullying. But they're not moral. And if you have to hide to do something immoral, then you're not doing it on a moral ground, in my opinion.
To me, it ain't about hiding from the immorality of it. It's about hiding from the illegal actions. When resistance is illegal, you have to resist in secret. And, marching down the street with a sign is not, it's not going to do it. It's not going to affect any kind of change.
And then strikes wouldn't work.
Well, strikes don't work because, see, money gets involved. Now, interesting you bring up
but
strikes.
Strikes do work.
Because money gets involved. But the modern movement that we have now with Antifa was mostly made out of remnants of the Occupy movement.
No, they pulling it straight. Antifa ain't changed since its inception right after World War II, bro.
No. I'm talking about the people that are in it now.
They pulled it right straight out of that initial movement. The initialization of and the idea of Antifa was straight after World War II. I'm telling you,
most of the high actors in it, most of the ones like the was Scott Wolf? No, not Scott Wolf. I can't remember. But there's a Scott Crow. Scott Crow. He's one example of many, but he was one that he is in Antifa now. He's Antifa now, but he got started. He began his personal journey during the Occupy movement, is what I'm saying. I'm not saying that, they evolved out of that, like the movement evolved out of that. I'm saying they evolved into, finding this, joining along with Antifa. But most of them were left pissed off after Occupy Wall Street movement.
Okay, but the Antifa movement, as I have found, started right after World War II when some guy, I forgot his freaking name because I'm horrible with names, forgive me, folks, But he got out of prison right after the war ended, right after everybody just fought against the Nazis and the horrible shit they did against the Jews and, all that crap again, the whole big giant war against fascism, just fresh in your damn mind. You're still suffering from the wounds. And this guy gets out of prison and starts spouting Nazi rhetoric, straight fascism bullshit. So what do they do when this guy's movement starts building up steam? I couldn't, I don't know.
Yeah, all right.
Too many names have been running through videos right now for me to be able to put one to another in the last 24 hours. I couldn't do it if I wanted to. But this guy gets out of jail, starts up his bullshit rhetoric, and starts gaining momentum. And what happens? All these Jews that just got out of that crap says, hell to the fuck no. You go over there and beat the shit out of them until they quit. That's how it started. Granted, it's effective, and I can understand from their point of view why they did that particular route, but I don't agree with it. And this is me you're talking to here about that, who went through a huge period of that, violence solves all problems if you apply it correctly, but I still don't agree with using it just because I don't like something. I'd never stop.
Well, again, I go back to what else do you do with the bully?
I wait until he bullies me.
Until
he bullies somebody in a way that actually causes some kind of harm.
That is where I
take the bully's friend and beat the shit out of his friend to get the bully to stop.
I'll just beat the shit out of both of them.
If the bully's friend is actually kicking the guy or holding the guy or what the hell ever, yeah, I'll beat the shit out of both of them. But just because somebody's standing there and happens to know the bully, I'm not going to reach over there and punch him and sit there and watch the bully continue to beat the shit out of the kid. That's not the way it works.
Yeah, I actually was more, and even in the online forums during the George Floyd things, I was more of a, hey, make them show their hand first, like when they fucking tear gas you, throw fucking tear gas at them. When they fucking come at you with clubs, go at them with clubs. Make them make the first move. Stay on the back foot. But once they make that move, then fucking crush them.
Prove to me you're fighting the right person. Don't be what you claim to be against.
Yeah, make them show their true colors. Like, God damn it, I would have taken Raleigh from the fucking police, but I was there watching like, man, they're just not organized enough. They don't know enough about siege warfare. They don't know enough about formation wedges. They don't know how to break ranks.
They don't know how to pick a fight either.
No, well, the ones in Portland, by God.
In a proper sense of which battle to pick. They know how to pick a fight.
I was getting ready to say, the ones in Portland did fucking damn good.
I mean, that's all I see. You can go, okay, I've got a little bit of a tone to it, and I understand and this is the viewpoint that this movement has presented to me in 24 hours of looking into it, because I didn't know much of shit about it beforehand, other than, the bullshit news said this, but, okay, you got Proud Boys, you got Antifa, you got, okay, they're fine. But I looked into this over the last 24 hours, and this is the personal feels that it gave to me, and I got something again. Every single video, you type in Antifa attacks or Antifa gets attacked, and it doesn't matter which way you put that in any search engine, all you see or protests, and then some guy from the left runs over there and punches somebody on the right. Every fucking one of them.
Yeah, I agree.
Don't matter which news source, it don't matter who's holding the iPhone, it don't matter where you find it from, it's always, every single time I have seen it. And this is the face you're presenting to somebody who wants to learn about it, right? Because that's what I went into this with. I wanted to learn about it so that I could put out a better opinion based on what I've seen. I don't like it. It pisses me off. I actually want to join more on the other side because of the face that's out there of this black bloc. And it's important to know that that is a very small subset of what is generally considered as Antifa and the Antifa movement and the groups of that whole entire thing. It is a very small subset.
Yeah, and like I said, I was never saying that it didn't come from
loudest.
after. I wasn't coming from. I wasn't saying it didn't come from after World War II. None of that. But again, these are people who are sitting under fascist rule, living under a fascist state. And, you know, I bet they had in their minds a couple of times, like, God damn, I wish I'd have knocked him the fuck out. You know?
Yes, I have the thoughts, whatever. But, well, if I acted on everything that I didn't like in this world in a violent way, I would never get out of prison. That's just not the way to do it, especially in the way that they are doing it. I mean, if they were actually fighting the problem, fine. You know, go to the police station, run up in there, beat the fuck out of every cop after they shoot a black guy for no fucking reason. I would support it. You know,
well, they do that too. But you know, because it is an anarchist group, you know, collectivist. People do their own thing. You know, there's no like, that's what they're going to do. That's how they're going to do. Now, like I said, I think they could be a little bit more organized, but then again, it is anarchist.
No. Anarchy is not a fucking lack of morals. Don't
to me, again, it has nothing to do with morals. To me, it has nothing to do with morals. Like, if there was a goddamn, all right, put it this way. If there was me and Jessica were walking through fucking, or walking through town or something, and some fucking skidhead calls her I'm going to beat the fuck out of him. Right? I'm going to try to fucking kill them.
Fine.
Well, okay.
So
what is the difference then and them doing it in a group? What is the difference?
If you run across the street and punch the fucking skinhead that ain't said a fucking word, I'd be helping the skinhead beat you off of it, bro.
All right, now if that skinhead is standing over there across the street talking to someone else, calling Jessica a blank, then what?
Then I'll make sure he doesn't jump in the fight while you're beating the shit out of the skinhead that called her or whatever.
Then there you go. These fucking Nazis are doing this shit. They're going around saying horrible things, doing horrible things, trying to take over the goddamn world. Now,
well, the ones that actually do something and actually are saying something, beat the crap out of them. Fine, I'm for that if they actually are the ones doing it. Just because somebody wears a flag or a MAGA hat does not mean that they are racist. It does not mean that they support fascism. It does not mean that they're homophobic.
No, it doesn't.
Means that they support a Republican president because they're not Democrat. That is the only thing that can be inferred from that, but not from this particular small group of people that see a red hat and run across the street to punch the guy. And it always seems to be some old white guy that ain't got no clue what's fucking coming, getting punched by some 20-year-old guy.
He deserves a, hey, fuck Trump and fuck you for voting for him.
Yes. Agreed. He deserves a talking to.
And if that,
to hear your opinion. And then he deserves to hear your argument. But he does not deserve to get punched in the fucking face out of nowhere.
I agree with you on that.
Say, hey, I'm getting ready to punch you in the face. We got to fight about that.
I'm saying go out and provoke them. Do not let them fucking rest. Yeah, we're on the same page here, Mike. I just, we're on the same page here.
Antifa that I saw later in that video where they are working in the background, they are actually going after the people they see as a problem that are actually doing the things that are a problem.
Yeah, that was the part of the movement I was involved in. That was the part of the movement I was involved in. Like,
there's a small problem there too. Is who the hell is telling you who's wrong, who's right, who's the bad guy? Whose opinion are we going on? I mean,
well, if you're a public school teacher and you were dumb enough to get a picture taken of you in a fucking Klan robe, man, well, maybe you should fucking lose your goddamn job.
How long ago was that picture taken?
Irrelevant.
Not irrelevant.
Irrelevant. All right. So how long should a child molester stay on the sex offender registry?
Apples and oranges, bro.
No, not really. Because, once you're a goddamn Nazi, you don't, or a fucking Klansman, you don't just go back to being a regular Joe. I'm still using the push to talk button even though I turned that shit off.
Well, people's points of views can change.
Or, you can make it so undesirable to be a fucking racist piece of shit Nazi. You can make it so undesirable socially for that, that they'll live like pedophiles, keeping that shit goddamn quiet.
I used to be a Baptist. Do I not get to call myself an atheist now because I used to believe in some fairy tale bullshit?
Are you doing anything to fucking you don't fucking, you're not still carrying the party line,
Okay, so somebody was a Klansman back when they were 15, 20 years old. They're now 45 fucking years old and have learned better. But somebody digs up a picture from 30 years ago. Fuck their life now.
Well, that make future generations think twice before they goddamn put on a Klan robe, won't it? I mean, like it or not, it's effective.
If they're still affiliated, yeah, okay, fine. Now that picture you dug up, they used to be in the Klan 20 years ago, that warrants investigation. Are they still affiliated? Did they learn their lesson? But no, we don't take none of that into consideration. We jump all up and down on, we got another one, ruin their life. No.
Yes, which will make it a harder decision for the next person who wants to do that shit. Okay, so this shit happened, they moved on with their life.
That person right back to it, and now they're going to be spouting anti-whatever the heck you're standing for.
Well, everybody knows who, at least now everybody knows who they are.
But they don't know who they're talking to no more.
Everybody knows who you are.
Is that got little kids over there that are going to be future jihadis now. You know who Hamas is now. You don't know who Hamas is going to be next week now because you're bombing the crap out of everybody and ruining their fucking lives. The same thing here, bro. You ruin somebody's life because something they did 20 years ago. They're definitely not on your side anymore, and now they're preaching to the other side.
And now you got these people in Gaza whose entire family have been killed thinking, damn, I wish I'd have punched some fucking Israelis in the goddamn face. Maybe we could have stopped this back when.
Yeah, and guess what's going to happen when they start punching Israelis in the face?
Well, they're going to get bombed. At this point, it's too late now.
You see where this goes.
It's too late now.
On it.
No, I understand. But it is. I don't think it is immoral to treat immoral people and people who want to do horrible things horribly. And if you make a decision today to join the Klan, and then you change your mind, and you get outed for it later down the road, maybe that next person who's thinking about joining the fucking Klan will think of, oh yeah, that guy. Oh shit. Well, no, maybe
that's not what's going to happen. It's never what happens.
I don't know, man. I guess we'll see.
We've been beating the shit out of bullies in school. I don't know how goddamn long, bro. Still have bullies in school.
Still have bullies in school. Yep.
It don't change nothing.
It changes those bullies.
The problem is to stop the people that are going to produce future bullies from behaving in a way that produces future bullies.
Well, how
behaving in a way that produces future bullies?
I think a good way to do that would be to make bullying so fucking like so difficult, so abhorrent that it's just not a thing.
Okay, well, if you're going to use fascism to fight fascism, you can't call yourself Antifa.
That's not fascism. That is not. Where is it fascism? Where do I espouse any of the ideas of fascism there?
We just went over what concludes fascism. You want to go over that checklist?
Sure. Wait, pull that up. I gotta find the checklist.
Well, you're the one that had the last checklist.
I don't think I still have it up. Let me go here.
I mean, we could pretty much do it a little bit off of memory here. I just wanted to make sure we had something to go by. But we got a mythical beginning. That they actually had a factual beginning. But,
yeah. We've seen fascism more than once.
Yeah, well, and the movement actually did come from a movement right after World War II. There's documentation of that. That's where let's go with an us versus them mentality.
Yeah, there is an us versus them mentality. I'll give you that. There is existence within fascism or non-existence within fascism. That's the only two choices once you have fascism. So yeah, I'll give you that.
Okay, what's one of the other ones here? I can't remember them now that I'm trying to think of them. I hate it when that happens.
Golden age thing, the heart back to a good time. There was never a good time. Again, most fascists are anarchists, and the only good time we had was during hunter-gatherer societies. So maybe on that level.
Yeah, right after World War II, when we beat the Nazis, we beat fascism. We didn't have fascism early.
No, they never stopped fighting them.
Trump.
Because fascism just never goes away.
We beat the axis of evil.
We beat the axis of evil.
I'm painting the picture here that it can be taken into the way. Is that we had the axis of evil popping up and fascism was on the rise, and it was fighting against capitalism. We beat it down to where it's underground. Of course, evil never dies.
Yeah, but you can try. But yeah, then you try to keep it under the ground. Right, so and it's been because you had Mosley in the 40s in
so when
UK.
We had it underground.
You had Rockwell here in the 60s. The what?
We had it underground and had it, subdued, and that was the good times, and now it's reared its ugly head again.
Well, it keeps rearing its head.
Well, you have a wave of, up and down. Then
I guess
good.
We harken back to a golden era when authoritarianism, fascism, homophobia. Hold on, let me find that list. Yeah, we want a world before fascism, nationalism, far-right ideology, white supremacy, authoritarianism, racism, homophobia, and xenophobia, capitalism, and government. To get to harken back to a golden time when that didn't exist, again, we got, like I said, I've given you that point.
You got the anarcho movement to go on there to throw that one with it.
Yeah, so, like I said, but yeah, we want to go back to a time before those things existed. Sure.
And everything we do is for the good of us.
I guess just like the fascists and anybody else, they believe that they're trying to do what is good in the world. Sure.
Well, that isn't a justification for whatever needs to be done, not just but it does travel to every single action taken pretty much is for the good of us.
Yeah, that anybody kind of qualifies for that.
Philanthropists definitely don't.
Well, do they get gratification out of it?
I couldn't answer that loaded question.
Yeah, I've also never been able to be a philanthropist, so I can't really speak on that.
Perfect. Well, I'm a philanthropist. I just have a problem with organization. I give away things before I have them.
Yeah, there you go. I like that. Like I said, I can't think of any of the fascist checklist. But no, it's resistance. You know what I mean?
Well, it's limiting other people's rights, is what it is.
Well,
Because you want to abuse yours. Well, theirs, not yours.
yes, but in this case, with these people, they will take everything from you if you give them anything at all.
Oh, we got two fallacies there. We got to go over these fallacies, but this is why I can't
Well,
follow
do
you.
it. But, I mean, we're sitting here talking about it.
We've got a composition fallacy there, thinking that, because of the sum, the whole, just because a few people are fucking racist and xenophobic does not necessarily mean everybody on the opposite side of the fence of you is. And then you got the slippery slope saying if A, then B, C, D.
No, it's not. It's not the majority. It's not the quiet majority, Mike. It's the loud minority. And this loud minority is the one that's in power. I'm not saying that everybody is a racist, just like with the Donald Trump thing. Everybody that supports Donald Trump is not a racist. However, every white supremacist racist supported Donald Trump.
I'm glad you moved the goalpost on that one.
100%.
Before I replied.
You're not going to find any
replied.
Proud Boys that voted for Hillary. Every single Trump supporter
know that.
is not a racist. Every white supremacist is a Trump supporter. I'll stand by that. That's a hill I'll die on. We can call that a logical fallacy, but it is not. It is observable data.
I would say it falls victim to the composition fallacy a little bit, but I'd give you that one because you clarified the white supremacist instead of racist.
Right. I did clarify that. There are racist groups that are not white supremacists. I can think of one, the Black Hebrew Israelites. Boy, that's a fun group. I think me and Jess are going to cover them at some point because they are kind of a cult.
So every single race has racist in
Of course,
it. Yeah.
of course. But white supremacy, has with United States of America, white supremacy has a long history. It is a weakness, apparently, in North America, especially with the rise of the far right. And that would bring us into the next one to talk about.
I'll have to think about that white supremacy versus racist kind of a difference there.
Hold on. What do you mean? A white supremacist is a racist. I mean, by definition. You can't be like you can't believe that white people are superior to all other races, but also be cool with other races.
But I'm just saying, there's a difference between being a racist and being a white supremacist. Even if you're white, you can be a white racist without being a white supremacist. I just had to make sure that my mind clarified that.
Sure, you sure can, but you're at this point you're eating out of the same trough,
No, because black racists aren't black supremacists, but you do have a couple of black supremacists. You do have black supremacists,
absolutely.
There's a difference between when you throw that supremacy thing. Yeah, the supremacists are eating at the racist trough, but the racists aren't eating at the supremacist trough.
Well, I think if anything, the last couple election cycles have shown us.
And I'm not trying to justify any of it.
No. I didn't think so.
I don't even try to justify that shit, and I justify almost everything.
I mean, we're just, speaking academically anyhow. And, oh, damn it. Goddamn joint stole my thought.
We'll find it in a minute.
White supremacy. Okay, yeah. I think if anything, has in the past couple election cycles have shown us is that fairly moderate people can become polarized in just a couple of social media clicks. So somebody who already espouses some racist ideology can very easily, much more easily than say you or I, be swept up into white supremacy from that ledge of racism, because you're already closer to white supremacy than you are, you're already down that path a little ways.
I haven't studied this, but I would guess, I would venture a guess that to be a supremacist, you would have to be a racist that was also a narcissist.
Well, I think narcissism is a big part of racism. It's what to me separates xenophobia from racism. That's just my own interpretation. But I have done a lot of, my grandfather was in the Klan, and I was raised around that shit. And I've done a lot of research on like the far right and white supremacists. I've been following that shit since fucking Timothy McVeigh. So yeah, where was I going?
I would think racism is a little bit more of a limited xenophobia, almost like either out of ignorance or something. I mean,
xenophobia is more out of ignorance.
Hates everything different, but racist is I hate that particular different thing.
Yeah. Xenophobia is more of a thing. That's more of a thing of ignorance. Like you don't really know. You know what I mean? It's kind of like when I first started smoking weed and actually got introduced to the hood. I didn't know that these parts of town even existed for 14 years of life.
I did. I had to walk through them to get to school.
I did not. As a matter of fact, 90%, and that's not even me like exaggerating numbers. I'm being very liberal with it. It was probably much less, but 90% of the black kids in the school I went to lived in a trailer park called Buck Adams. You remember Buck Adams Trailer Park, Mike?
Been through there.
All right. And you remember where I used to live with my mom in the trailer over there on Lake Wendell?
Yep.
Yeah. So that is where I grew up. That school right up the road from where I was living with mom is where I went to school. That's how far away 90+% of the black people that I went to school with lived. So,
my example, Wake Forest. You know Wake Forest, right?
Yeah, you got what, fucking Sharon Road?
No, the railroad tracks.
Oh, yeah.
One side of the railroad tracks, you got North Main Street and all the big plantation style houses, and then on the other side of the street, you got White Avenue. You got all the projects.
Yep. Then you're in the hood.
Right, and the school is over there on that side of town. I lived over there on North Main Street, had to cross the tracks and walk through that neighborhood to get to school. So, yeah, that was my route.
Dude, I didn't even know that like Pilot Riley Road and shit like that. I didn't even know that whole side of town existed, bro. In Zebulon. I had no idea. So, yeah, it was, that was my xenophobia moment. And, what got me through it was these people that I was, of course, I was there to buy drugs, but they would like let me in their house and we'd be watching TV, and they'd fucking feed me and shit. We'd hang out, they'd like, hey man, you want to ride to the store with me? Yeah. We'd go hang out. Like these people, at worst, like I've never once had problems in any hood, and like none of it, and none of the shit you hear about. At the worst, people are a little bit wary, but I guess I just give off a vibe of, oh yeah, this guy's definitely not a cop, or he's not a fucking Nazi, so this is just some kid, and like I said, man, so my experiences were different. I didn't even know the place existed, and then when I did, I wasn't seeing the things that my parents, my grandparents, the fucking pastor at church, I wasn't seeing these things that they were talking about black people. So I was thinking, so I thought for many years, up until I went to prison actually, that there was some subset of black people that I wasn't seeing, and that must be what everybody's talking about. And I found out, I found that subset, and come to find out, nah, they were actually quite a bit like me. So
that wasn't the group that I ran into.
Yeah, so my experience has been different than most. It had things been a little bit different, had I not started smoking pot, I might have ended up being a fucking Trump supporting, MAGA hat wearing, redneck fucking grandson of a Klan father. Like I might have been that. Hell, Grandpa tried to get me to fucking join the Klan, and this was years after he had been out of it. He left for religious differences, but he was like, man, they could really help you out. They could give you jobs and whatnot, and it's a pretty good thing to be into. I'm like, nah, dude. Like if it was a Masons club, maybe. Like if you're trying to get me into the Freemasons, but this is the Ku Klux Klan, Grandpa. So
I had a little bit different of an introduction to him when I was younger, and again when I went into prison. So yeah, I've looked into it, but quickly changed my mind after a little bit of time back on the outside. And when I got back out,
any
and realized,
racism I ever espoused came from a place of being raised in it and having to unteach myself things. Having to look at basically putting on my empathy shoes, just being amongst other human beings and being treated like a human being and seeing the shit that they go through every day. Like it gives you an insight that you otherwise wouldn't have.
Yeah, mine was based out of ignorance, generalization. I was a kid. Man. One bad thing happened to me when I was, crossing the tracks going to school, and then, that particular week turned into a few years of thinking for me.
And and white people in the South have changed, and not all white people in the South were racist, but you cannot deny that at least during our time growing up, we lived in a very openly racist culture. Like we lived in a very, it was these ideas about black people and shit like that. It was commonplace. Us coming out of a place of ignorance. It wasn't just ignorance. It was you've been told that these people are different since you were knee high to a grasshopper.
See, I think that was I think there's you mentioning that say that again, how you had, because I've lost my fucking thought again. It's fucking weed.
I'm sitting here rolling a joint. So no, I was talking about how it comes out of ignorance, but during that ignorance, you're being fed stuff. You're being told by most of the people around you. If your parents, your grandparents, your peers, other kids in school, and your this racist ideology is just kind of ingrained. Well, at least it was kind of culturally ingrained. It's where we get the whole systemic racism thing from, and it was much more. It seemed casual, grandma sitting there talking about how, well, they're just, they're a little bit different, and they knew their place back in my time. People that
right. I found my thought in that now. You come up in a time where you thought that it was accepted, and it was just like it's the norm. Nobody really cares about it anymore. It's just the way things are now, right? That's where you're at. See, for me, when I was coming up, I thought it was just some language from a bygone day that's just hangover stuff. Nobody actually had those thoughts. They would say particular words and phrases that you knew was like, that's a bad word in that sense, but it wasn't a bad word there at that time. Now you know it, and you'd never say those words or infer those thoughts, at least not in any kind of company if you're a decent human being. But to me, when I was a kid, it wasn't like if somebody said that word, they didn't like that person. and I'm referring to the N word just to clarify on this particular set. I mean, if somebody said that, it wasn't like they were calling that person any kind of slur or anything like that. It was a pronoun of the day. And I never picked it up. I was a kid, so don't look at it like I was, supposed to read too much into anything. But I never felt that the person that was using that word had any animosity against the person they were referring to. They even said it in front of their face, and not saying that made it okay. But I never picked up that there was a bad thing between person A and person B in that conversation, kind of a thing.
Well, that's a lot of that's just based like the ignorant part of it. And so me growing up, I would hear, and this was every family member, every single family member. My both sets of grandparents, my father, my stepmother, my aunt, all four aunts, all four uncles, my older cousins, my older stepbrothers. This word was unilaterally used to describe black people. The N-word was used unilaterally to describe black people. And black people were inherently lazy. They were inherently dumber than white people. They all stole. They just laid around screwing and drinking all day. If they don't have a white person tell them what to do, they ain't going to do nothing right. How do you starve a blank? You hide his food stamps under his work boots. These are the things that I'm hearing every day of my childhood. So to me, just hearing it.
Last couple I could see coming from the time. You got to think, bro, that the black culture, after having their culture stolen away from them, remember whose culture they adapted.
What do you mean?
So, the blacks here, they had their African culture stolen away from them when they were taking the slaves,
of course.
the generations and generations brought over here. They had no culture of their own, so what did they adapted? They mimic what they're raised in, and they were raised in the fucking southern redneck fucking. That
and
group.
Dude, and I knew growing up.
Of course, they fit that stereotype. They mimic the folks that were raised around. Dude. It's like telling a kid, you're just like your father. Of course they are. So
I remember growing up,
those
dude,
problems is not a fact or problem that it's a race problem. It's a fact, hey, they're acting just like you.
There was this one guy. He was a black guy, and his name was Lee. And he lived in Wendell, and during the summer, he worked on all the tobacco farms. But during the winter, he would sweep up at Mr. Beaver's gas station up there. And, Mr. Beaver, he was the guy who ran Mr. Beaver's, he was Klan with my grandfather. And Lee would come up there, and Mr. Beaver and my grandfather would say, "Oh, you do a pretty fine job sweeping that floor for a blank." And Lee would just go along with it, just take it in stride. And I thought that meant it was normal, but what it really was, what choice did this man really, what else was he going to do? This is his way of surviving. So he just smiles, and just like they did for 400 years under slavery, yes, massa, and that's what it was. So I saw examples
I had
of
that bubble where people were using it in comedy, trying to fight it using comedy, and maybe that was the lens I seen it through from a period of time, or it could be that the guy just had no other choice. I don't know. Like I said, I was a kid at that point, and throughout my teenage years, racism was all but dead. And
the rise of fucking the Black Lives Matter movement, people like Dave Chappelle was healing the racism wound fast as shit. With comedy. He made fun of it. He made racism silly, right? Which it fucking is when you really look at it. It's fucking ridiculous. And so Dave Chappelle would just do that. He would do this ridiculous shit, like the skit he did where he was a blind black white supremacist. It just... And the thing is, the way he talks in that skit, have you ever seen that skit, Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah, the way he talks in that skit, is pretty close to the way everybody I grew up around talked. So that's why, to me, it was extra funny. Right?
Because there for a fucking while, man, I thought they had actually owned that N word, and it was going to be something that was a badge to be used. This is our fine. We are here, and we're going to stay, and fuck you, kind of a thing. And it was open use. That's what I thought it was for a while. Everybody was swinging it around, and some people were using it in a joking manner in the context of racism.
Well, then you start getting all these people who are
using it in respect.
You get all these people who are using it jokingly, but not really. You get what I mean? And what it boils down to is, as a white person, nobody who had any control over my life or who was causing me pain has ever called me that word. So I have no right to say how a black person should feel about a white person's use of the word. Now, I do understand the argument that, well, they get to say it, but again, I've never been called that, by somebody. I've been called a cracker. And the worst thing you can call me is a goddamn redneck. And this one guy, when I asked for rolling papers at a gas station, called me chief. That shit still fucking grates me, and that can't, and that's minor shit compared to what they go through with this word. So I can understand in principle. And it's why, if I'm singing along to, Lil Wayne, yeah, I'll say the word. But I'm not going to use the word out of, that context. You know what I'm saying?
I will if that particular person's pissed me off and he refuses to fight.
Well, all right, because that's what you're going to get out of it.
Yes, because I'm going to fight. That's the only time I'm going to use it.
That's another example of how Antifa's tactics do work.
They should work. They don't use that tactic. Punch him in the face because he won't fight.
I agree. A lot of people are skipping straight to step 2. And that is a big debate within the movement. I can tell you that as somewhat of an insider.
Example I could find.
Well, you know why that is, Mike. Because during as soon as Trump started, once he got elected, Antifa woke up basically, and he kind of woke the sleeping dragon. And the first thing he started doing, he tried
was some guy getting punched outside of a Trump rally from behind. Just because there was a Trump rally.
Well, yeah, and you can take these. There's 15 or 20 videos of this happening, but. And it does happen, but that's not the majority. It's not the majority. And a lot of these are at the same events. You know what I mean? So it's not the majority. Again, you can't group them all with the majority there. Not all Antifa. Like I said, I'm loosely affiliated in my own way.
No, I'm referring to the black bloc when I refer to anything Antifa in that negative light of that as assaults, batteries, what the fuck, all that stuff, because that is the militant arm of Antifa, their bodyguards, their front line, whatever you want to call them, but it's the black bloc.
It's the left answer to the Proud Boys.
Except I haven't seen a single instance where the Proud Boys and Antifa squared off where the Proud Boys fired first or swung first.
No. You take the upper hand as soon as you can. I have the high ground, Anakin. But I do agree, like I said, and it's a big debate within the whole Antifa community. Do you make them punch first? Everybody's down for punching Nazis. Nobody's cool letting Nazis fucking rear their head up and start gaining traction again. Because that's what's fucking happening. I don't like the
idea, but for me to punch a Nazi's got to at least swing first.
Exactly.
I ain't got to let him connect.
That's the
at
thing.
Least got to swing first.
And that's what I told Storm on what to do with bullies. I said, if somebody's bullying you, just start saying ugly ass shit to them.
No.
Make them hit you. Make them hit you.
In a logic circle, make them look stupid.
Well, then they just still beat you. I tried that, Mike. They'll look dumb while they're beating you. It makes you no less beat. Make them go ahead and hit you, and then savagely attack them.
That's yes, but what you're using is considered as bullying and just as bad because you're using bullying tactics. What you do is you use a civilized tactic of assaulting their intelligence, not their person.
Well, that's what you do.
When they look stupid, they swing on you.
That's the same thing, Mike.
Cause to beat the fucking hell out of them.
That's the same thing. You're insulting their intelligence, and they fucking swing on you.
You start saying nasty shit to them. I'm assuming that they're going to be talking about their body, their homes.
Oh no! I was actually clear when I was talking to her to make belittle what they're doing. They will get mad. You don't have to belittle them. Be nasty to them about what they're doing and how small of a person they are.
Right. Yeah, that works. Yes. And then when they mess up and swing, you take the legs out from underneath them and put their face in the floor.
Like I said, that's a debate within the Antifa, quote unquote community.
At least then you know if you're dealing with somebody that has the opposing view of you instead of some fucking old 60-year-old guy that's fucking just out there because he's anti-Democrat.
Yeah. Like I said, I think it's at this point, people who are still carrying around the MAGA hats, it's okay to, be rude to them. It's okay to fucking shame them.
Yes, if you're still supporting Donald Trump at this point, you need to have a conversation. Seriously, somebody needs to have a conversation with you.
Yeah,
absolutely. There's something wrong with you. You have been miseducated. You need your eyes opened. Something there has to happen. You don't need to be punched in the fucking face. I don't care if you're wearing a fucking swastika. I don't care if you're fucking going out and saying whatever the hell you want against whoever the hell you want to. You got a right to fuck do that. Right up until you interfere with somebody else's right to do the same.
But yeah,
which is why I have a problem with Antifa's black bloc on that. They can exercise their right and all the hell they want to until they interfere with somebody else's right to do the same.
Yeah, I'm not against the black bloc. I'm just against how those particular black blocs have been operating. Again, it's like I do want a militant wing. I want there's fucking far right militants. You got the Proud Boys out there. You cannot leave that unanswered. So you have to meet them with equal force.
You need to be prepared to meet them with equal force. Exactly.
Okay, yeah, that's the thing. You make them though the first swing. Otherwise, you don't have quite as much moral high ground. Me and you aren't having this conversation, right?
Absolutely, we would be on the same side of it. I would be up there supporting them every step of the way if they weren't showing me that they're acting in the same way as the shit that they're supposed to be fighting against. Worse in some cases. The cure can't be worse than the disease, man.
Yeah, I agree on meeting violence with violence, but you need the violence to be there first. It don't matter if you provoke it, because a rational person will not be provoked.
Exactly. It's hard to
a rational person will turn around and be like, yeah, you know what? Racism is bad. And yeah, maybe I'm not really a patriot if I'm walking around carrying a Confederate flag.
I wouldn't exactly call you a traitor until I heard your story, though.
No, but I'm not going to call you a fan of the United States of America.
It's kind of hard to wave both of those flags at the same time unless you're absolutely ignorant.
They do. Me and you saw it. A QAnoner.
I know. And I say it was impossible, but it's got to be heavy.
Yeah, and that seems to be the far right's biggest weapon against Antifa. We do not know what to do against absolute fucking nonsense. We don't know how to prepare for made up shit. We think rationally, mostly.
Education and counter information. Just as if you would in a conversational debate, you have to do the same thing every single aspect of the life.
But
it
this,
has to be done
this,
that
this
way,
one
else you're
always
fighting yourself as well.
this, unlike a punch thrown in a street in a fucking rally. This is responding to shit after it's already hit the fan. You're cleaning it up after off the walls at this point, you know.
But you got to target the problem. You got to target the cause of the problem.
So, Mike, are we going to do QAnon in this episode, or are we going to stop the recording and then make a second episode about QAnon?
How long are we so far here? What are we? Oh, it's an hour 14. I think we got some time. I mean, yeah, we've done two topics. We've done Antifa and threw in racism in the middle of it.
Well, I mean, you know, Antifa is fighting racism. So you got to talk about the enemy.
They're Antifa. How many daggone different battles do they want to fight? We've
Well,
already discussed and figured out that fascism necessarily isn't racism. They don't go hand in hand.
Not necessarily, no. In practice, generally. One second.
There's only, how many successful practices of it have we had? I mean,
Loki was screaming to get let in.
Oh, but yeah, Mussolini's fascism is the only true fascism we've actually had, and they weren't racist.
Yeah.
That's the true documented fascism that we've got on record. They weren't racist. So I can't put, I mean, the Nazis, okay, they used fascist tactics, but were they fascists? The jury's still out on that. But, you know, they were racist, you know, of course. But the Italians, the fascists, they had Jews in their ranks. You know, they weren't following, you know, that.
Again, we're against fascism. We're against Nazis as well. Fascism include up to and including Nazis, skinheads, white nationalists, Christian nationalists.
I can understand the throwing the Nazis in with it because of the whole axis of evil thing that popped up there. You know, I get that. You can conflate the two, or even argue that, you know, Nazis are fascists because A, B, but not necessarily C. Kind of a thing. You see what I'm following there? It's kind of like or Antifa. You know, the Black Bloc militant group, are they acting as fascists? They're kind of close, but maybe not quite. That's where I'd put, you know, the Nazis. They're kind of close, but maybe not quite.
Well, I guess we're going to have to put a wrapping up on Antifa. I think we covered what they are, what they've done. You know, yeah.
Well, yeah, but just so it's said, I don't think it was covered enough. The underground folks, the backlines, you know, the normal everyday folks are actually fighting for what they believe is right in ways that, you know, aren't violent and, you know, destroying lives that don't necessarily need to be destroyed. You know, bringing light to past subjects is okay. It's when you use it to destroy somebody that's made changes. I've got a little, you know, moral, you know, ambiguity kind of presence to that. You know, need to check in on that, and you know, make sure we just, you know, oh, I don't like him, we're going to target him now, and make sure that shit don't happen. Hold the moral ground back there, and I got props for those folks. You know, pull that black bloc in check. You know, it's giving a bad face to the whole movement.
Yeah. I'm trying to find the exact quote that I will give my closing thoughts on Antifa with. Oh, damn it. I can't remember his last name. Why isn't my keyboard doing anything? Let's see. What's going on with my keyboard now?
Well, you can't be having computer problems during the program. Don't you know we're supposed to be professionals over here?
God damn it, I'll use my phone.
It must be nice having two devices with internet you can use.
Fred, quote,
Me stuck over here, I can use my phone or my computer because I have to use my phone to use my computer. That's just, yeah.
All right. Fred Hampton, a Black Panther Party activist and chairman of the Chicago chapter, once said, "Nothing is more important than stopping fascism, because fascism will stop us all. We don't think you fight fire with fire best. We think you fight fire with water best. We're going to fight racism, not with racism, but we're going to fight with solidarity." So that's my thing on it. We cannot let fascism win. And that also means not becoming fascist in the process. We can't become Israel, right? We can't doggedly pursue Nazis so hard that we become Nazis. So Israel is there to look at, but also never forget Berlin. Never forget that they've told us their plan. They're telling us what they want. So there's only existence within fascism or non-existence within fascism. And with that, I'm done with Antifa discussion.
Yeah, I can move on. Yep, I think we did okay with that one. Gave it some good justice.
Yeah.
If anybody out there comes across these videos at some point in time, wants to add something pro or con against them, don't be afraid. Voice your opinion.
I'll at this stage of my life, I'll debate damn near anybody. There's some people I don't think there's a point in debating, but I'll debate them anyway.
Everybody's opinion is as valid as my own, so that's the way I see it.
Well, speaking of valid opinions, Mike, what do you feel about global satanic pedophile elites that eat children?
Oh, that was a mouthful. Half of that stuff I don't even think exists.
Well, hopefully not.
Satan and I know there's satanic peoples, but even those I don't think most of those believe in Satan.
No.
There's pedophiles, but
there
I
are.
don't know very many satanic folk that are pedophiles.
No, generally diametrically opposed.
One of their full tendency about being able to do anything you want is that the participant has to be willing.
Exactly.
And
Satanism is about free will, and child rape goes against that principle.
Well, there was some more stuff in there, wasn't it?
With what?
With that description of what the hell that thing was.
QAnon? or Satanism?
That whole list of satanic pedophilia.
Yeah. All right.
There was a whole list of pronouns in that daggone list.
Okay, so QAnon, which I'm pretty sure everybody listening knows something about it. They're everywhere. Oddly enough, in Canada and UK and Australia, but it is an American political conspiracy theory and political movement. It originated in the American far-right political sphere in 2017, and it centers on fabricated claims made by an anonymous individual or individuals known as Q. Those claims have been relayed and developed by online communities and influencers. Their core belief is that a cabal of satanic, cannibalistic child molesters are operating a global child sex trafficking ring, which conspired against Donald Trump. QAnon has direct roots in Pizzagate, a internet conspiracy theory that appeared 1 year earlier, but also incorporates elements of many other theories. QAnon has now been described as a cult. Followers believe Trump secretly fought them, the pedophiles, and that he was going to conduct arrests and executions simultaneously because he has that power as president. of thousands of cabal members on a day known as the Storm. Sometimes the event, kind of this apocalyptic doom narrative, where Trump is the second coming of Christ, and he comes and he lays waste to these Satan-worshiping pedophiles who are killing children to get access to their favorite drug, the drug of the elites, adrenochrome. Yeah, and if you think it sounds like a bunch of crazy nonsense that I made up, well, it is a bunch of crazy nonsense, and I can't make this shit up. I'm not this crazy.
I'm not that imaginative.
I guess. I don't understand the logical leaps. QAnon also claimed that Trump stimulated the conspiracy of the Russian collusion to enlist Robert Mueller to join him in exposing the sex trafficking ring and to prevent a coup by Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and George Soros.
Yeah, okay.
QAnon is also, just to add a little bit of pepper to the pot, anti-Semitic, or at least rooted in anti-Semitic tropes. It has a fixation on Jewish financier George Soros, and a whole bunch of conspiracy theory about the Rothschilds and the Goldsteins and the Leibowitzes and the Steins and Bergs and yeah.
Okay. On those, I would have to look into a little bit deeper before I call it anti-Semitic and make sure it's just not criticism of people that just happen to be Jews.
These elites, most of these elites, like, not all of them, like Hillary Clinton's not a Jew, but they think she might be a secret Jew. All of these, like, all the Jews are part of these elites that are killing babies. Like, that's part of their thing. That the Jews are these commie baby, like, pedophiles that are, yeah, it's steeped in anti-Semitism. They don't say it out loud too much, but you'll see there's a flag you'll see all the time, the KEK, the KEK, and that actually is kind of a dog whistle for Nazis.
KEK?
Yeah, the KEK flag. Let me see. Let me look it up.
Okay, well, that just threw my mind back to World of Warcraft. What the fuck is going on here?
God damn my fuck! What is going on with my keyboard? Ugh.
Too much Pornhub?
No. I don't have time for that. Too much Rick and Morty coming out.
At least you got your priorities straight. I mean, but I mean, just what I would say about it is I would want to, read what they said about, Soros and the Rothschilds, stuff like that, because there are legitimate claims to be made against certain folks about certain actions that they did. Just because they happen to be Jewish does not necessarily equate that, we don't like what they did because they're Jewish. I want to make sure, before I would base an opinion on that and, following the anti-Semitic claim, I would check that out. Yeah. But
well,
of course,
the name,
considering who we're talking to, it does kind of lead some credits. Yeah.
The name, usage, and ultimately the ideas around KEK originated in gaming culture, particularly on chat boards devoted to World of Warcraft. In those games, participants can chat only with members of their own faction in the war, while opposing players' chats are rendered in a cryptic form based on Korean. Thus, the common chat phrase "LOL," laugh out loud, was read by opposing players as KEK. The phrase caught on as a variation on LOL in game chat rooms, as well as at open forums dedicated to gaming, animation, and popular culture, such as 4chan and Reddit. Also dens of the alt-right, where Pepe the Frog meme has its origins, and similarly, then it was by those people hijacked as a symbol of white nationalism. Yeah. It didn't start off racist, but it ended up being if you look up the KEK flag, it's based on the Nazi swastika flag. Like look it up. I mean, you look it up and look at it, man. You'll see what I mean.
I'm on it.
Is there like a keyboard lock button that I fucking pushed? Not I can see.
Fuck.
What? You see it? What happened?
I'm looking at this, and this ruins my fucking. Yeah, okay. Now I do understand why some people started looking at me weird when I was using keck as an LOL, because I never fucking knew this.
Oh shit! Yeah, man. Fucking Nazis ruin everything for everybody, bro. You look at that fucking flag and tell me that ain't a fucking Nazi flag. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you see that flag at the January 6th protests, what does that change the message for you now?
Bro, it's look at the negative space between those whatever the fuck they are in the corner.
The shamrocks?
Yeah, if you say that's what they are.
Yeah, there's a swastika right there. Kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, if you look at the negative space, they've got them off centered and done right. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I never even noticed that. I thought there was they were using the shamrock because of the Aryan Brotherhood.
Well, it might have dual symbolism there,
dual
but
symbolism.
The way that they're put there definitely is intentional. There's no way that was accidental. That was an intentional use of negative space to put the swastika there.
Uh-huh.
But for some reason they couldn't angle it. I'm kind of curious about that. It would have been better had they had put the shamrock shit. Okay, yeah, vertical and horizontal, made a basic plus out of them, or
maybe they did that, and it was
maybe
that made it more clear what it was.
Yeah, it might have been too obvious if they did that. Yeah, because it would have jumped out at almost anybody that has any kind of facial recognition. Then.
So when you see people flying that flag, they're fucking Nazis, bro. You know?
Well, that sucks, and I've had to go to let them know and have a conversation with them and find out why they're
right. You're not going to run up and punch them in the face, but you might want to let them know. And if they already know, well, things that go from there, you know? You see how it feels.
Right. Find out
Read the
why they believe it.
Yeah. So, yeah, what was your first impressions of QAnon? When did you first hear about QAnon?
First time I remember hearing about QAnon, shit, bro, I can't even fucking remember that. It was recent, way more recent than anybody would fucking ever like to know, but
It was probably me.
No, I think it was just a couple of random posts in the news or something like this little thing from QAnon or something like that. That might have been it, but to become actually aware of it, it was either a conversation between you and I, or it was during the election upbeat for like between 18 and 20.
Yeah, and I almost wanted to do simultaneously some Proud Boy research. But I think I'm going to save that for our Donald Trump episode because he speaks to the Proud Boys directly. And there's arguments to be made about connections with the Proud Boys who also fly this fucking Keck flag and yeah. So, but yeah, I was going to get into that, but I was like, I can save that for another time. The Proud Boys are way more serious than QAnon. They're to be taken more serious than QAnon. But January 6th shows us that you cannot take QAnon for granted. And the fucked up thing is, if it was just any random, bunch of fucking idiots that think Trump is a literal god on earth. Did I mention that earlier? That they literally think that Trump is the new Messiah ordained by God. That Trump is, Jesus Christ was the Messiah of Israel. Donald Trump is the Messiah of the United States. Like, I don't think I mentioned that, but yeah, that's a
bunch
thing.
of New Age Christians always trying to figure out who the Messiah is.
Yeah.
The Jews already told you that when they wrote the book.
And there was churches in goddamn. Why did I do that? There we go. Let me go to this.
But to an earlier point, folks, any group that shows up 50 deep with AR-15s, take them seriously.
Take them fucking serious.
But take them fucking seriously.
Yeah. So there was a church in. There were several churches. During services in July of 2016. Rock Urban Church in Granville, Michigan, played a discredited video that supports QAnon conspiracy theories. Quote, "The country is being torn apart by the biggest political hoax and coordinated mass media disinformation campaign in living history. You may know it as COVID-19, the video says. Danny Silk, a leader at Bethel Church, a Pentecostal megachurch in Redding, California, has posted QAnon-related ideas and hashtag on his Instagram account. Pastor John MacArthur of California, an influential evangelical who is battling county officials over the right to continue indoor services during COVID, espoused a theme in QAnon circles when he misinterpreted CDC data and informed his congregation that there is no pandemic. There is a movement led by Indiana-based Omega Kingdom Ministry to merge QAnon and Christianity, with texts from both the Bible and Q read at church services. Quote, "If you are just learning about QAnon and the Great Awakening, this is the right spot for you." Quote from the ministry's website. Representatives from the ministry never really respond about it. This is what they're going out to their churches with, right? And if there's one thing that what's the fucking word? Protestant Christians fucking hold dear to their heart, it's what their pastor tells them. So then that leads into them voting, right? These motherfuckers vote.
There's a small kernel of truth that could have, thrown that.
On what?
Yeah, the hoax, the so-called hoax of the COVID-19 thing being a pandemic, when they're saying that it wasn't a pandemic.
Well, these
small, tiny kernel of truth in there that at a point in time, the CDC and everybody of the authority were calling it a pandemic, when by definition it had not reached that stage yet. It did soon after, so I mean it's kind of a moot point, but it's a small kernel of truth that they grew that on.
Yeah. So you got all these people, and they believe this shit because their pastor told them, and the pastor's a man of God, and they listen to their pastor,
the infallible, non-changeable.
So
God.
you get people espousing ideas about how, say coronavirus vaccines are actually nanobots that get activated by 5G towers. That's going to turn you into a gay communist. You got them putting out these ideas that the world is being run by these satanic pedophiles that try to get high on a drug that doesn't exist. Adrenochrome, the chemical, which is actually the product of spent adrenaline in your body. It is a chemical. It does exist, but it is not a drug. It would have at best it would give you a headache. It is spent adrenaline. All the good shit's gone. They would be better off shooting up EpiPens if they were trying to get a rush of adrenaline. And these QAnoners also believe that they're doing this adrenochrome because it gives them like unnaturally long lives and makes them look unnaturally young.
Well, then Clinton definitely hasn't been partaking. We can take her out.
Yeah, we can remove the number one child molesting eater, kill baby of them all, Hillary Clinton. And I was saying Hillary on purpose because that's a major
That's what made the tongue
QAnon.
twist there so fucking funny is you were trying to twist it and got twisted.
Yeah. So this leads to what year? 2021. There was a QAnon convention.
And we're going to have to do something about COVID at some point.
Yeah. Well, first off, do you believe pigeons are real?
Birds are not real.
Birds are real.
Birds are not real.
Birds are real. So you believe that the COVID lockdown was actually just a cover so they could replace the batteries in all the birds?
No, I just said birds are not real.
Well, the birds are just figments of your imagination. They're not actually like government drones.
Yeah, and of course I'm playing to the meme of the joke that some kid made up with the birds are not real hashtag thing. That blew out of proportion.
Yeah,
and
the
got
thing
its own
is,
life, of
it
course,
was a
yes.
joke. It was a joke. It started off as a joke. These guys they believe everything they read. And you know why? Because they were raised to believe nonsense. They were raised to believe that a man can be born of a virgin, murdered, and brought back 3 days later. They were, in face of all evidence to the contrary, they are taught that it is okay to believe whatever the fuck you read. And here we are. So, there is a QAnon convention in Las Vegas in October 2021. The event was organized by John Sabal, known by his Telegram marker QAnon John. Let's see. There are. I had it somewhere. 73 Republican people, and not just Republican people, I mean in office or running for office,
for party.
Republicans. Here's one of them. Republican Mark Fincham. Arizona State Representative Fincham has a long repeated the baseless claims that a nationwide conspiracy stole the 2020 presidential election for Trump. He was rewarded for his loyalty to the former president when Trump endorsed him for Arizona's Secretary of State, a position that would allow him to oversee elections in the state if elected. He appeared on QAnon-supported media in May when he was featured on the Red Pill podcast by Zach Payne. In a questionnaire that he filled out for his candidacy of the Arizona House of Representatives, he said he was a member of the Oath Keepers, one of the largest anti-government extremist groups out there. Then there's Senator Sonny Borrelli. The Republican Arizona State Senator has also repeated baseless claims that the 2020 presidential election was subject to widespread voter fraud. Following the results carried out of the Arizona audit, the confirmed President Joe Biden won. Senator Borrelli called for the election to be nullified. Let's see. Another member of the Arizona House of Representatives, Leo Biasucci, a Arizona House member, has promoted baseless claims that Trump actually won the election and is still currently president. Senator Wendy Rogers has frequently shared misinformation that Trump won the previous presidential election and has also promoted election fraud claims in Arizona. She has also pushed the Great Replacement theory, talking about border crisis and Jews, saying we are being replaced and invaded. She appeared on the anti-Semitic online website True News. And the list just goes on and on and on. I can tell you there's not a single Democrat on the list.
Well, if at this point, I don't care what you got to say about the election. We put that onto a side topic, and on that, if any of you deniers actually have anything y'all guys claim as evidence that to support
Mike's
your
trying
freaking
hard to
idea,
find it.
email it to me.
Mike's trying
Email it.
really hard to find it.
What I had thought of I can't find it, and I'm not going to go digging too much because I don't want to get doxxed and said, hey, he was trying to support this, that, or the other daggone thing, even though I would be able to show that I'm doing it under the contents of searching for this. But I'd like to know, and I'd like to look into your evidence and stuff so we can have a real discussion about an upcoming thing about the election, because we're going to cover that.
Yeah, you can get on the podcast. Shit.
Even if you deny the damned election, the results, whatever, if by some chance you still for some reason think that Donald Trump is the president, I mean, by what definition? How? In what world are you living in? We have a president. As much as I don't like the guy, he is the damn president. By lock, stock, barrel, legal, reality, every damn definition you can come up with. Even if he stole it, he is the damn president. Doesn't matter. All the other, that point of Donald Trump still being president, that is an absolute no possibility. It can't happen. Even if all other fucking things are true, that one is still false no matter what. Get over that.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I have nothing further to add. I mean, I could, but, we're going to do a whole episode on that.
So I don't care how big of a nut job you are. That one, yeah, just let's go with that one. Yeah, that one, no.
Yeah, I mean, at some point in time, you're denying reality. You can't just argue up versus down. The reality of the situation is whether the election was stolen or not. The reality of the situation is it's gone.
Yeah, you crossed the line from argument to delusion there.
But don't worry, you're getting another chance soon. Mike, what do you want to say about what are your opinions on Marjorie Taylor Greene? The bitch who has fucking hijacked our favorite game's fucking, nickname, right? We can't even shorten Magic the Gathering anymore. I never again will say I'm going to go play MTG.
Yeah, because the mental pictures that brings up is just horrible.
No, yeah, I'm looking at her picture right now. What did I tell you about? Huh? How? I have her fucking page pulled up.
Not that, how. I mean, I don't believe you actually have internet, and I don't. It's like, how in the hell can you stand to do that?
Oh, well, I just hate her face, honestly. Marjorie Taylor Greene, also known by her initials MTG, is an American far-right politician, businesswoman, and fucking conspiracy theorist. I mean, absolute nutter butter conspiracy theorist. I'm going to also add in that she is a outspoken Christian nationalist.
Yeah, that's the big thing that I know about her. She's a nut job that still, parrots that damn election bullshit, and she wants Christian nationalism.
She actually won in her district because she went so fucking crazy, having her people stalk her, the only person who was running against her, that they just fucking backed out of the election. They were scared for their life. These fucking people were threatening his home and showing up at his house and at his work. So, she mafiaed her way into office in Georgia's 14th congressional district in 2021. She has promoted anti-Semitic, white supremacist, and far-right conspiracy theories, including the white genocide conspiracy theory, which is a white supremacist theory that states there's a deliberate plot, often from Jews, to promote miscegenation, interracial marriage, mass non-white immigration, racial integration, low fertility, QAnon and Pizzagate. She believes in Pizzagate, not believed in Pizzagate. After Pizzagate happened and the guy from North Carolina went and shot up this fucking place because he had this idea that they had children in the basement, they found out this place didn't even fucking have a basement. But she still believes that children were in that basement. So, yeah. She promoted in government. She claims that the government has involvement in the mass shootings in the United States. She makes baseless allegations of murder against the Clinton family and crazy 9/11 conspiracy theories. She supports calls to execute Democratic Party politicians, including Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. As a congresswoman, she has equated the Democratic Party with Nazis and compared COVID-19 safety measures to the persecution of Jews during the Holocaust. During the 2022 invasion of Ukraine, Greene prompted Russian propaganda and praised Vladimir Putin. She is a strong supporter of Trump. She aided and supported Trump's attempt to overturn the 2020 presidential election and has since, until this day, supported Trump's false claims of a stolen election. She called for the results of the 2020 election in Georgia to be decertified and was part of a group of Republican legislators who challenged votes for Joe Biden during the Electoral College vote count, even though federal agencies and courts overseeing found no evidence of electoral fraud. Days after his inauguration, she filed articles of impeachment alleging abuse of power. On February 4, 2021, the House of Representatives voted to remove her from all committee roles because of her endorsements of political violence. 11 Republicans joined the unanimous Democrats in the vote. She was appointed to new committee roles in 2023, but she got expelled from the conservative House caucus after insulting Lauren Boebert, who's another member that's just as fucking crazy.
But a little cuter.
She is.
No, a lot cuter.
She is smoking. She is a smoke show. So, and my point in bringing all this up is QAnon is not just a bunch of fucking nut jobs that tried to take the Capitol because they believe that there's, Donald Trump is going to save them from the global pedophile ring. They're also your senators, your congressmen, your governors, your Supreme Court judges, your federal Supreme Court judges, the list goes on and on and on and on. Hell, the majority of the Republican nominees in some way have espoused this bullshit. So that's why I bring this up. It's not to slam the Republican Party. It's that this is where they're at. If you could point to me a Democrat who is a member of QAnon and espouses to QAnon's ideology, I would love to watch them from afar.
And there pretty much you have the two sides of the wall where the walls are, where you're extreme. If you happen to bump into each side, you're getting pretty close to the limits. Back up, find your way back to the middle, and get comfortable.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Oh, let's look at some of QAnon's craziest claims. All right.
Yeah, I would say we'd go down to Georgia, into her district, and we could run against her for Congress on the next term. But
I have family members that I love.
I don't think they do any damn thing. I stand up to it. I wouldn't give a shit, but I think they would prefer her over an atheist.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The saddest thing, even though he pretended to be a Christian, the closest thing we've had to an atheist president ever has been Donald Trump. The man didn't mention religion until he started his campaign. He was not a Christian.
I wouldn't call him a Christian now. I mean, anybody that is should actually be able to find out if he believes anything, if he knows anything about the fucking Bible. Hell.
He didn't even know which way to hold it in that photo op that they fucking gassed a bunch of protesters for.
I mean, I could give somebody that. Somebody hands you a book, you don't even look, you just grab it and hold it up. I don't know about that, but
I mean, for a photo op, Your point is to know you look like what you're doing. You know what you're doing, and no.
I guess I'm just a
I would
little
believe
old-fashioned
you.
about some ideas. I would actually hope that the fucking people out there around me that are fellow human beings would be like, "Hey, man, you might want to flip that upside down
I
before
looked
the
at
right
it.
side up
I
before we
looked
take
at
that
it
picture."
as him did it. He did it on purpose to mock.
Maybe I don't know, but did
He was like, "Look
anybody
at these
mention
fucking
that,
idiots.
hey,
I'm not even
you
going to
turn
hold
it
this shit
over
right."
before we take pictures? Did anybody there? I questioned that side. And not
He was
that
probably telling the
fault
camera. He was
anybody
probably
taking
telling the
picture.
cameraman, "I could take a shit on this Bible right now, and I'd still win the election."
And it would be right.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. I mean, look at him. The more charges that get filed against him, the more likely he is to win. It's the craziest shit you've ever seen.
I mean, he might lose the Christians if he actually did defecate on the Bible, but man, he would grab so many more fucking votes because of the audacity
He
of it.
wouldn't even lose the Christians. They'd be like, "Well, see, that's why you need to build the wall." Like, what? It's the Democrats. See, that's what he's doing right there is he's talking about that's what the Democrats are doing is they're shitting on the Bible. So if the Democrats can do it, why can't he? That's their logic. You want to tell me I'm wrong, you know it, but you can't, can you?
Well,
wouldn't
their logic
even
is
lose
the appeal to the authority that is him, so their logic is begging the question. It's true because the person that they are supposed to believe says it's true. It's the same reason that for people that believe in the Bible, why they believe in the Bible. Their main argument is, well, the Bible's true because the Bible says it's true.
It's both. They both come from the same, poison fruit. The fruit of the poison tree thing.
Yeah. When you assume your premise is true, it's easy to form logic around it.
Well, look, I've never been able to see the logic with it, and I can see and some of their points, like we said before when we were looking at some of the Q drops. Some of the things they hit on things that resonate with people, so that gets people following it, and pretty soon they're finding more and more. They find they resonate with it more and more. Before you know it, being family, people are losing family members to this shit. Like people just absolutely certain that George Soros and Hillary Clinton are molesting a child somewhere right now. And their reasonable family members are like, "No, please stop. Please stop this. Can we just have a normal Thanksgiving?" It's hard to enjoy your stuffing when Grandpa won't stop talking about global pedophile rings that don't even exist. Like global pedophile rings, sure, those exist, but like
You'll say that particular one don't exist.
Yeah, the shit they're talking about ain't happening, and these people that they're say doing it aren't the ones doing it.
Well, that we can't prove exists now because somebody killed themselves.
Oh man, Aaron's gonna get so mad, but I gotta say it. Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. I used to send Aaron those memes all the time. He gets so frustrated with me. He's like, "He was a pedophile. Why do you care?"
I know, but he didn't.
Exactly. Like these two things can exist at the same time. He is a pedophile. I don't care that he died. However, just noticing the facts here, he didn't commit suicide. I would say there's like a 3% chance that he committed suicide.
I mean, it's not zero. I mean, we don't know.
But I mean, come on.
Somebody does.
I mean, we don't know, but come on. We kind of know. And the thing is, these people that are pointing out that Hillary Clinton was hanging out with Epstein were quick to pass over the fact that Trump hung out with Epstein. That Trump and Bill hung out with Epstein. So what do they say about that? Well, George Soros, you know, yeah. Or they accuse you of the whataboutism. And now, well, no, you're doing whataboutism. I'm like, well, yeah, but in this case, it's specific. You cannot condemn the actions of one while ignoring the actions of your preferred party when they're doing the same thing, or at least at the same place.
Did they go to the island?
I think, yes, they all did. And and thing is, that island wasn't always that. You know what I mean?
Well, I would assume if they have a thing that they're trying to point to, then they have a time frame that these crimes supposedly happened.
Right. And I mean, what's easier to believe, though? That they were dealing with him on the level of the fact that this man is a billionaire and he likes to party and he has his own private airline that he'll let you use just for access. And, you know, or that Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton and, and Jeffrey Epstein were all just holding down 12-year-old girls.
It's all hypothetical, but you got to remember that most clubs have back rooms.
Jeffrey Epstein was definitely one of those clubs with the back room. The question, and I'm not accusing Donald Trump of pedophilia, not specifically,
none of them
not in this case.
Even if you went to the island, I ain't accusing you of pedophilia, but if we can prove you went into the quote-unquote back room,
right.
You know.
And that is why I was upset with Jeffrey Epstein's apparent quote-unquote suicide. Not because somebody died. Now, fuck him. He was a pedophile. What I was upset with was we'll never know. We'll never know now who was doing what.
Yeah, so unfortunately, everybody gets generalized into the same lump, and, well, that's the problem.
It comes to the point where being a billionaire and knowing Jeffrey Epstein, billionaires are a small group. It's a small world.
Very small.
It's small up at the top. So, I mean, them knowing Jeffrey Epstein and whatnot and interacting with him in a social manner, it really is meaningless,
I would probably venture a guess that if you're a billionaire, you probably know 8 out of 10 other billionaires.
Exactly.
You're going to go to the same car dealership.
Exactly. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you're involved with what these other billionaires are doing.
Right. Just because 3 of them are trying to, actually had a race to space, doesn't necessarily mean all of them are racing to space.
Exactly. Now, if somebody has information and is put in a compromising position that might tell you which ones did the naughty things, well, they turn up suicided. And yeah, that starts to sound a little bit like QAnon conspiracies, but that's one of them I actually kind of agree with. Jeffrey Epstein was killed by someone with political power to silence him.
Most of those stories, I can't say all of them, but most of those stories would come with the kernel of truth.
Yeah.
That's the best way to spread a lie is to get people to believe in something, and the easiest thing to believe in is the truth. So you start with the truth and then start twisting.
Yeah. Well, I guess this is a good point to wrap it up. Any closing thoughts on QAnon?
On the whole thing, I pretty much, hang on a second, I got something riding by and I left my damn doors open like an idiot. Forgot all about the buses driving by. Yeah, you probably didn't hear that, but
I kind of did.
Just in case. But keep yourself centered, folks, and not only politically but emotionally and physically, all of it. Keep yourself centered. You go to the extreme, you start running into these kind of assholes, and they're really good at using psychology to rope you into their mentality. Herd mentality is so easy to fall into. You fall into that group, you're going to get lost, either side. So try to avoid it. Let them do their thing. If it's something you believe in, I'm not saying don't be an activist. I'm not saying don't look into conspiracies, but don't fall in them.
Yeah. Like, I always try to apply Occam's razor to conspiracy theories. Usually the Occam's razor is, the simplest answer is usually the right one. All things equal, which things are never really equal. But, when you're looking at that, look at, like, is it more likely that this is a true this is a true thing that's happening? That there's a global pedophile ring that's fucking running the world, and they're devil worshippers, and they're trying to get our kids, and that Donald Trump is going to save us. Is that simpler than it's a made up story? Because I mean, in general, that's something to look at there. There's conspiracy theories out there, like with the JFK assassination. That one that like the Occam's razor actually points to the conspiracy theory. So,
along with the simplest is usually the correct, you can also apply that you go through all the possibilities, you eliminate the possibilities. The one you're left with, after you've eliminated all other possibilities, must be the correct one if you can't eliminate it.
Yep. Well, I guess, guys, next time maybe we'll be ready to talk about Trump. In the meantime, don't go to Gaza. Make the Nazis punch you first, and stay off of 4chan. And
Have a good one, folks.
fuck around and find out.